Leadership is about your team and about the people and about creating constructs and frameworks for them to fully realize their vision.
Diane Boettcher, thank you so much for joining me on 20-Minute Leaders. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much for joining me. We have so much to talk about in so little time because we are going to talk about your experience in the military, in the technology side, being deployed overseas to Afghanistan, but transitioning to being a keynote speaker and leading with kindness. And when I think of a military setting in Afghanistan, transitioning to a keynote speaking of leading with kindness, there's going to be a little bit, I'm sure there's a dissonance there. But then being an architect manager at Microsoft, so a lot of experiences that I want to learn from. But I like to start with the hardest question, which is tell me a little bit about yourself and where you come from.
That is so great question. As you could probably guess from my accent, I am American, although I've lived most of my adult life outside of the continental U.S. Some of that due to my military career, some of it due to my civilian career. So, like you said, pretty diverse background. I think of myself, you mentioned my title as an architect manager. I think of myself as a leader more than as a manager. And we always say that we manage things and lead people, right? And both need to be done. Leaders and organizations need to be paying attention to both sides of that because you always have to manage budgets and time and resources and things like that. But people should never be thought of as things. And so we lead people. I joined the Navy right out of college. I went to flight school. Not a pilot though. Most of the time when I say I flew reconnaissance aircraft, people go, "Oh, you're a pilot." No. So a lot of people have seen Top Gun. So Maverick and Goose, right? Goose. I was in the back, ran the mission, hollering out, do some of that pilot stuff.
Diane, I have to go back a little bit because the thing that I enjoy most about this show is really, understanding the junctions and the decision-making processes. Why, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not the default path for many young women out of college to go to flight school in the Navy, especially in a technological position.
Sure. Okay, so I consider myself one of the first digital natives. Both of my parents worked for a computer company when I was growing up. And back then, computers took up rooms. And a college might have one computer. And in fact, that's what my mother did. My mother has a background in education, and she sold computers to engineering schools. And they weren't really sure they needed a computer, right? They've been teaching engineering for many years, and they weren't sure they needed a computer to do it. And the CEO of the company, a man named Mr. Norris, believed computers were going to change the world. And they belonged in the homes. And everybody thought that was crazy. And they said, well, what would they do with it? What would you do with a computer in your house? And he's like, well, I don't know. So let's give them to people. And so he reached out to his employee base and he said, who has young children? And he gave us a mainframe terminal. So I was about 10 or 11 years old and we got a mainframe terminal in my house. This was an old 300 baud acoustical modem, right? And we were like pounding it into the cradle. And we did what, teenagers do, right? We played games and talked to boys. That's, so very early on exposed to technology, exposed to that kind of, part of the world, if you will. And so, when I graduated from college and I was joining the Navy, this was, late 80s, mid 80s, very much appreciative of the freedoms that we enjoy here in the United States. felt it was, important to put my hand at the wheel, take my turn at the oar, if you will, and join the military. So I did. And then it was like, well, they actually, at the time, women weren't allowed to serve on ships, but there was some interesting things happening in the aviation side of the house. And so that's why I decided to go there.
Wow. Okay. So, and how long did you serve for?
I actually just retired. Between active duty and reserves, I served 30 years.
Wow, 30 years. So I have to now all of a sudden jump a little bit because today I'm going to skip for now about the leading with kindness. We'll come back to this, but I have to now talk about being a leader at Microsoft, being a leader in the Navy, deployed overseas, managing critical infrastructure at both companies, different types of infrastructure, I'm sure, and different technologies, I'm sure. What were some commonalities and some differences that you're seeing?
Oh, yeah. So the couple of places where I was, managing infrastructure. So in addition to being deployed to Afghanistan as a civilian, I managed a network in Germany as well as one on the continent of Africa and a little country called Djibouti, which we just have to admit is fun to say. And I think that one of the things that is common across it is that we've really moved from seeing technology as an extra, as it was when I was young, to being infrastructure, right? That we can no longer think of technology as internet access, of the capabilities that are brought to us with technology as a nice to have. They are a must have. Right. It's power and water. It really is. At the same time, we don't see I don't see the operators, right? So whether that's the people who fly the aircraft, who pick up the weapons in the military or in a business context, it would be your sellers, your customer engagement, really understanding what's happening with the technology. And so as a leader in technology, a lot of times what we're spending our energy on is helping those business leaders, helping those operational leaders understand the capabilities and the constraints that the technology brings to it. So, for example, in the military, we would often, have to talk to, some of the senior leaders about how we had to, we have to take down the servers and do, patch maintenance on them. So this was before the cloud, right? And for virtual machines. And we would actually have to have an outage in order to update and install the patches on the servers. And we'd have to explain to, very senior people that we would have to take down the system. And a lot of times they go, well, I never have to do that with my router at home. It's like, well, yes, sir, that's because your router at home is owned, right? Like, the adversary probably is on it because you've never patched it. And we don't want that happening to our servers, so we have to take it down. And so then we would try to say, well, you wouldn't fly an aircraft for 30 days without maintaining. You wouldn't fire a weapon for 60 days without disassembling it and cleaning it and maintaining it, right? Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Well, we have to do that with the technology as well. And so a lot of, both in business and in the military, a lot of what it is helping those business leaders, helping the operational leaders understand both the limitations and the capabilities. Like, what are the cool things they can do with the technology?
I'd love to transition a little bit in talking about leadership as we continue in your journey. So you finish your duty, right? You're still in reserve duty, but you finished your active duty. Yep. And you are now turning to be a keynote speaker and help others understand better leading with kindness. What does that mean?
Yeah. So it's got dual meanings, right? So first of all, it's being a kind leader, right? It's about leading isn't about yelling. Leading isn't about being the one in charge. Leading is about being kind. It's also a little bit of a double entendre that when you lead with something, it's the thing that comes first, right? So it's showing up first with kindness. Like whatever else comes along, the kindness needs to show up first. And I think a lot of people misunderstand the way the military leads. You've served, and other people who've served understand that it's not just about yelling orders. It's about helping people share the vision, like understand, what are we doing here? What are we trying to accomplish? And then getting out of people's way, right? And letting their creativity, their passion, their innovation, their energy make that vision come true. And you can't do that if people don't share the vision. And they're not going to share the vision with you if you're mean to them. It's just as simple as that. If you think about the leaders.
Why so passionate about this? Where does this innate passion that you're saying, I want to dedicate myself now to sharing this passion with others? Where does this come from?
I think our world lacks leaders, and I think our world lacks the good examples of leaders. I think too many people learn about what it's like to be a leader through the media, through Hollywood, through fictional depictions, and a fictional depiction of Eisenhower, standing, with those paratroopers the night before D-Day and just talking with them. That's not dramatic, right? That doesn't sell tickets, right? So we end up with the cake boss, yelling at people, and we end up thinking that that's what leadership is. And it's not. But the quiet, humble leaders who are out there doing the hard work of getting to know their people and helping their people and lifting their people up, we don't see that portrayed. So we have this misunderstanding of what it means to lead and be a leader. And I think we lack that in our communities. We lack that in our schools. We lack that in our workplaces. And it doesn't have to be like that. Work doesn't have to be terrible. We spend so much of our day at work. Why would we want it to be a turmoil? Why would we want it to be so difficult? Why can't it be? And I think it can. I think it can be a place where we grow and we thrive and we bring our full and complete authentic selves. So where does that come from? It just comes from, look, we could be so much better. We could have so much fun at work. We could accomplish so much. We can all win. Life isn't a competition, right? I'm a gamer too. That's not in my bio. But I play games all the time with my kids and everything. And we play co-op games. And a co-op game is a game where we all work together to beat the game, not to beat each other. And that's what life is. Life's a co-op game. We can all win.
Diane, as I'm embarking on my journey, and I hope to have the privilege of leading great teams with fantastic, motivated, intelligent, hardworking people. What are some things that I can take with me from this conversation, for the next few decades, as hopefully a successful leader? What things should I be keeping in mind that you're observing that are just not apparent enough in the world?
So leadership isn't about you. Leadership is about your team and about the people and about creating constructs and frameworks for them to fully realize their vision. And as the leader, what you do is you set the overall larger vision, and then you help people understand how they can achieve their purpose in that context. And then, like I said, create the frameworks that allows them to have those, to bring their passion, their innovation, their creativity, right? Because those are the things you can't automate. Those are the things, if it's something where, I always tell my people, they say, well, tell me what to do. And it's like, well, if I could do that, I would write an algorithm, right? And I would just have the algorithm do it. What I need from you is to figure out what I don't know, right? So listen to your people. Understand that, they're full and complete human beings, right? They're more than what they bring to work. And so understand what those other things are about them and what's important to them, and support them in that. And then share your vision and clearly communicate your vision over and over and over and over again. The best leaders are those whose people can imitate them flawlessly. If your people can do a good imitation of you, it means you're showing up. It means you're being consistent, right?
I love that. I love that because, a lot of the people that I speak to, I ask this question a lot, and a lot of the times I'm hearing responses like, a good leader is one that knows how to hire slow and fire fast. Or a good leader is one that knows how to articulate the vision and take the team forward. Rarely, the first response is a good leader is one who listens and one who serves by example and has their people yearning to or able to imitate their positive qualities, like showing up and being consistent. So I'm taking a lot of this inspiration, and I have to say that from my experience in the military, I've gotten to observe great leaders, poor leaders. I've gotten to be a leader myself. I have been a good leader. I have been a poor leader, and I've learned from both. And it's a journey that I'm very excited to continue embarking on. And at the end, people is everything. We just have a few minutes left, but I'd love to learn a little bit about what you're doing today at Microsoft, what you chose as your next challenge, and then obviously the last and most difficult question that I'll ask.
Okay. So as an architect manager, I lead a small team of pretty senior folks, which is really exciting. All of them have 15, 20 years of industry experience. And what they do is they help our customers who are solving the hardest problems with our technologies. So whether, it's typically, we're talking Fortune 50 type of customers who are doing big things or new things with our technologies, and the architects on my team help them do that. And what my job is to make sure that they have everything they need to show up well for our customers and help our customers succeed.
So it sounds like an amazing challenge that consistently changes, consistently having to adapt, because obviously we're seeing how the world is changing every single day, and Microsoft is at the forefront of these changes. And I'm sure that it's a pretty remarkable position. And Diane, I want to thank you again for being so generous with your time. And I'd love to end with my favorite question, which is 3 words that you would use to describe yourself.
Yeah. So I'm candid. It's one of my brands. That. I'm candid. I'm founded in knowledge. I like to do my homework. Okay. And the last is compassion.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah,
I love that, and I want to again thank you for sharing your journey. I think it's remarkable, and I'm learning so much from every journey. But that transition from the military setting, technological background, going there with a mission, being a part of missions, and then going and talking about leading with kindness and expressing that side, and then doing it in a place like Microsoft, I'm sure that's just phenomenal. And I'm sure that those architects are lucky to have you working with them. So Diane, thank you very, very much. And stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you. You too. All right. Thanks.